I think it's time I come clean and tell you all about my secret ingredient to ensure that my sugar washes never fail. Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Beaver, and today I want to let you in on my secret on how I do my sugar washes so they never ever fail me. If you're interested in learning on how I do my sugar washes, stick around. So first up, let's get into the nitty-gritty of it. The first thing you're going to need for any sugar wash is sugar. Now the sugar I tend to use is either your standard white sugar. Here in South Africa the sugar is made from cane sugar, so technically we're making a rum, but you're going to use pure white sugar. Now you can't just add pure white sugar into a fermenter, add water and hopefully the yeast will eat it. Yes, you might have some luck every now and then with a healthy strain of yeast that chews through the sugar, but generally that doesn't happen. So you're going to need a couple of key ingredients to ensure that the yeast actually eats up all of the sugars and turn it into that wonderful alcohol that we all want so we can distill it. So step number one, get some sugar. Now that we know we need sugar for a sugar wash, the next thing we need to do is we need to take the next step in ensuring that the yeast has a lovely time eating up all that sugars. We're going to need to invert our sugar. Now that process has been explained multiple times, but let me just give you a quick recap. Step number one, get yourself a pot large enough so you can actually add all the sugar that you're going to be using. We're going to be using 5 kilograms of sugar today. The full recipe, if you want to copy it exactly, will be down in the description box below. But we're going to take 5 kilograms of sugar, a pot large enough to actually melt all the sugars into water or dissolve all the sugars into water, as well as add a little bit of an acidic side to it, either an acid to it, either lemon juice or citric acid. Either one of those two will be fine, and allowing it to simmer for roughly about 20 minutes, and then all the sugars are going to invert, breaking into smaller pieces, allowing your yeast to actually eat up that sugars a lot easier. So yeah, let's quickly jump down, get our sugars inverted. Now that the sugar has all been dissolved and we're getting ready to start boiling away and inverting those sugars, it's time to let you in on secret number one. Now secret number one is yeast loves dead yeast. Now how do you get dead yeast into your fermentation? Well, we're going to make yeast and we're going to let them die. Yes, yeast is cannibals. They love eating their little dead brothers and sisters as they fall out of suspension. They use them for nutrients. So what we're going to do is we're going to just boost that up. So from the get-go, there's dead yeast cells inside of the fermentation. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to add about a tablespoon of yeast to our sugar mixture that we have on the stove right now. And we're going to let it boil. Now that yeast is going to activate, they're going to become all alive and well, and then the heat is just going to kill them off. But what will be left over is the dead yeast cells, and that dead yeast, the live yeast that we're going to be adding to the fermentation, they're going to have a royal time. Now that's secret number one. Now that we have officially committed mass murder as well as stripped the sugar of all its dignity, it's time for us to do the next step. Now the next step is relatively simple. All we're going to do is we're going to take this hot sugary liquid and we're going to dump it into our fermenter. Now my fermenter is currently filled with about 10 liters of nice ice cold water. So this is going to cool down the sugar syrup rather rapidly. So let's do that. Now, for probably the most crucial step of this whole process, and that is to mix your liquid up. Not just mix it up, but allow you to get as much oxygen into that wash as possible. Your yeast is going to go through two phases, anaerobic and aerobic phases. Now, the first phase is it needs a lot of oxygen to reproduce and actually colonize that whole wash. Once it has consumed all the oxygen out of the wash, it's going to start getting to work to consume all the sugars. And we need that yeast colony to be nice and active and happy. So let's mix it all up. My preferred method is a cordless drill and a store-bought paint mixer. All I'm going to do is I'm going to dunk it into this bucket, give it a good stir, and then allow as much oxygen into the wash as possible. I'll see you once it's all done. Now that we have mixed up the wash and we've allowed as much oxygen into that wash as we possibly can, it's now time for my secret ingredient. And no, it was not clickbait. I actually do use Bovril or Marmite when I make my sugar washes. Now the reason for using this is, yes, there is some dead yeast extract in here, especially in the Marmite. It's made from yeast extract. But the other thing that your yeast actually needs is nutrients. Now the nutrients come from sources of minerals. And what is inside of a jar of Bovril or Marmite? A whole bunch of different minerals, magnesium, salt, calcium, all of those fun things all gets jammed into a very highly concentrated jar of super nutrient for your yeast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be adding about a tablespoon of this into my wash, and then I'll see you guys once we're ready to add the yeast. Now it's time for my third and final tip. If you ever want to do a sugar wash and you want it to kick off immediately and you want your yeast to be healthy and happy, it is extremely important to add healthy and happy yeast. And this is where a yeast starter comes in. This is just a jar of normal plain tap water or purified water or whatever water you want, with a teaspoon of sugar added to a half a jar, and then I add the yeast that I'm going to pitch into this jar. I leave it for a couple of hours until we have a nice foamy frothy head, and that tells me that this yeast inside of this jar is extremely active and extremely healthy. So now I know when I add it to the fermentation, it's going to kick off immediately and we are going to have a nice and smooth fermentation. So let's quickly add the yeast and then we'll finish up. Now that was my ultimate guide to making a sugar wash. Now if you're interested in seeing how the sugar wash turns out, I suggest you hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, and then ring that little bell icon so you don't miss when I upload the video when we're going to run this through the still. And you can actually see if this mucky water that the yeast loves actually tastes like a beef stew or a super awesome clear flavorless liquid that we can use to make any other alcohol. If you stuck around this far, thank you very much for watching and have a lacquer day.